Marvelous hello, friends and loved ones! How are you today? I've got something very special lined up for today, seeing as how it is now the 4th month, and it's my 40th episode of Strain42's Views. I figure it's time we talk about an RPG that is beloved by so many people. That's right, folks, today we are finally going to be talking about Persona 4. What do you mean it's not Persona 4? Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Look, I'll prove it. I am gonna read straight from the back of the box here, okay? An unseen second world. Unique and colorful cast. Two worlds intertwine in this dark, stylish RPG. See, it's totally Persona 4. April Fools! But look, if it makes you feel any better, I'm doing a real video on this, so let's get started. Mind Zero, or Mind Equals Zero, or whatever you want to call it, was a Vita-exclusive RPG released in 2012, and yes, the first thing anybody and everybody notices about this game is its familiarity to Persona. You've got a cast of mostly Japanese high schoolers who stumble into another world and gain the power to summon otherworldly beings that allow them to cast magic. So far, so Persona. I mean, it's really hard to not draw Persona comparisons here. You've got your mysterious beings who grant power, your butt of most jokes guy friend, and your spunky, tomboyish, short-haired lady friend, both of whom, not even kidding, share the same voice actors as Yosuke and Chie.
How could you guys have left me out of the loop on this? You have to take me to see them, right now!
Just shut up! I thought we were going to Amamiya Park, so let's go!
And while you're investigating the plot of the game, you've got an older grizzled detective and his whiny younger subordinate also trying to figure stuff out. Seriously, all Mind Zero is missing is a cartoon bear that makes dumb puns, and since I'm here, that box kind of feels like it's been checked off too. So, a quick warning before we go any further, like always, I'm gonna be spoiling the plot of Mind Zero, but consider this your spoiler warning for Persona 3 and Persona 4 as well, because it's really hard to not make comparisons. So the game opens up with rumors spreading at school about doors opening up, and then cut to the cops trying to take down a mind addict, which they believe is just a drug being spread about. It's decent foreshadowing for what we're going into, because now we meet our protagonist, Kei Takanashi, and his friend, Shizuku Kamina, who's been having bad headaches and seeing weird stuff. Ooh, spooky. While trying to save a kid from a human possessed by a mind, Kei gets sucked into the the Undertaker's shop, where instead of Igor, we get this big booby lady. She tells us we have to pick any one weapon in the store, and our choice will determine if we live or die. Kei grabs a scythe, and by choosing wisely, has forged a contract with his mind, this lady with scythe hands. Look, none of the minds have names, so we're just gonna have to roll with this. And using his new power, he beats up a lamb man with the help of Sana Chikage, who already had mind powers and just happened to be in the neighborhood with her, that guy, Marble Elf. The next day, Kei and Sana want to learn more about their new power and where these monsters come from, so they ask their friend and ghost hunting expert, Leo Asahina, who takes them to the park. Leo winds up in the Undertaker's shop as well, where his choice results in his mind, this big demon dude, eating his arm. But they come to a mutual understanding, apparently. See, aside from not having names, the minds also don't talk. They communicate telepathically with their host, which just means we, the audience, only get to read one half of the conversation. This complete lack of characterization for the minds is kinda disappointing, because I think this could have been a really simple way to help the game stand out from Persona. But whatever, now that we have a full party thanks to Chiekage and Ryosuke, we investigate our first dungeon. The game is a first-person dungeon crawler, just like the original Persona. And, you know, countless other games, but I'm committed to this bit now. Battles are also first person, but it actually shows character models for attacks and spells and stuff, and it's fine. I actually really like it. To quickly attempt to sum up the battle system, it does work quite a bit differently from Persona. You basically have two modes, when your mind isn't summoned and when it's summoned. When it's unsummoned, you can defend, which also restores your mind's health, use items, and attempt to escape from battle. But your character's attacks are a lot weaker, and they're vulnerable to damage. When your mind is summoned, your physical attacks do more damage, you can use skills, which are fully customizable by the way, and most importantly, your mind acts as a meat shield, protecting your characters from actually getting hurt. But if an enemy knocks your mind's health to 0, you'll be useless for a couple of turns. Overall, it's not a horrible system, and I do think it manages to feel a bit unlike Persona. And now that I've explained all the mechanics, this game is gonna go by quickly. After beating the boss, we meet this old guy named Yoichi Ogata, a detective who also has mind powers. His mind is a little girl with gun arms. He promises to tell us all he knows tomorrow. In the meantime, we're free to explore the world map and do not really social links, but just social talking to people. You can occasionally find moments about the map, and you're free to do these if you want. There are some conversations, and some are actual side quests, but it's entirely up to you. So we end up meeting with Ogata, who tells us about major inner node displacements, otherwise known as mines, which to me just sounds like...
I mean, someone really wanted our initials just by...
Mind! He also tells us that our world is the outer realm, and the mines are from the inner realm, and the door we went through, blah 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 blah, it's a realm full of monsters. And he hires us as his assistants to basically just investigate rumors and report back. Also, for some reason, Shizuku can see mines, even without being a minder. So that's weird. The first rumor we stumble upon is about a ghost samurai, which leads us to this girl, Kotone Shiragiku, who is completely forgettable. Don't get me wrong, she joins your party, she's even got this cool flaming samurai skeleton mind, but I never really remember her doing anything. She has the same voice actor as Marie though, so... that. At the end of the next dungeon, and by the way, all the dungeons in this game are completely bland and generic with no real purpose, we finally learn that Mind Zero isn't content to just copy its homework from Persona 4, but we get a little Persona 3 in here as well, as we encounter our villainous group of minders, which consist of an obnoxious tech kid, a sexy lady, a dude, and their leader, who yes, does happen to have the same voice actor as Takaya from Persona 3. Because why wouldn't he?
You clearly don't have any idea what you're doing, so I don't want to waste my time dealing with you. Unless you intend to get in our way.
They beat the crap out of us, but let us live before they leave because they're dumb villains who are bad at villaining. Now that other minders are involved, Ogata decides to follow up on a lead about someone who is an expert about all this stuff in Yokohama, which leads us to meet Lena Albertine, a blonde-haired, blue-eyed young girl voiced by Karen Strassman who finds normal human behavior perplexing. She's got a butler mind. And like that, we have a full party. I have to say, I do like that this game doesn't pull any super late game party member stuff on us. We're only about a quarter through the game and we've got everybody. Lena agrees to join us if we help her close one of the doors, which we now learn are called Jungian tunnels. Young, eh? Hey, just like Persona. This is accomplished by going and beating up that thing. It's just a powerful mind. The bosses, like the dungeons, don't really leave an impression. Maybe they would if there was some kind of story behind them, but it's really just reach the end of the dungeon, there's the monster, fight it. Basically, imagine if all the game's major boss fights up to this point were just the Tartarus bosses from Persona 3. Phase 5 is we fight a big rock guy. That's it. Phase 6, about halfway through this game mind you, is where things start to pick up a little bit. A possessed human attacks Kei and friend's school, killing a teacher and eating their flesh. And Shizuku gets sucked into the inner realm, so we gotta go save her. By the way, I hope you've been using Chikage and Leo up to this point, because this chapter locks them into your party. And remember how earlier I talked about the dungeons not leaving an impression? This one is literally just white hallways. It's like they started making a dungeon and then we're like, you know what? No, that's good enough. Let's go with this. Now seems like a good time to throw out my majorest of major issues with this game. Most of the dungeons in this game aren't very long. You can get through pretty much any of them pretty quickly. A little longer if you decide to complete the map on each floor. The problem is this game spaces its boss fights out so that you're expected to gain about 5 to 7 levels in each new area. And leveling up once takes about half an hour to 45 minutes of grinding. It's kinda hard to explain, but basically my progression with this game was to get to the boss of an area very quickly, and then have to spend several hours grinding to be high enough level to beat them, and then spend several more hours grinding, or else the enemies from the next dungeon would destroy my party. This happened with nearly every dungeon in the second half of the game. Okay, so we get through the bland white hallways and fight that thing, rescue Shizuku, and then not Strega shows up, witnesses Shizuku's ability to do that, kidnaps her, and once again, bees the dumbest villains ever for not killing us while we are vulnerable and unable to stop them. They have had 2 chances now to easily kill literally the only people able to stop them. So from here on out, the rest of the game is all about rescuing Shizuku from the bad guys. The next dungeon we go into is more blank hallways. Anyway, this one is probably the most pointless because we get to the end of it for the kid to just be like, "She's not here, I'm gonna go now, fight you later, bye." Okay, so the next dungeon is where we'll fight him, right? So we go all the way through the next dungeon to have this lady tell us she'll fight us later. This is now 2 dungeons that were a complete waste of time, which wouldn't be so bad, but a reminder, this was about 3 or 4 hours of grinding to accomplish essentially nothing. That kid, by the way, is Yukito Kujo, and he has the ability to move the Jungian tunnels for some reason. While goofing around, he decides to trap the cops from before in the inner realm, so we go rescue them, and the older detective, Kamada, learns the truth about mines and decides to help us out any way he can, which is basically just doing detective work. Anyway, at the end of the dungeon, we fight Yukito, and his mind is all mechanical looking to match his tech-based personality. Oh hey, just like in Persona. After you beat these guys, the game tries to give a quick backstory about why they're working for not Takaya, like how this kid had rich parents who ignored him, and then he blows up. Oh hey, just like in Persona. Or his mind blows up and kills him too, or I don't know. This is where the game's VN style kinda hurts it a little bit. So next we've gotta fight this lady, and like any sexy anime lady villain, her power is basically she's a dominatrix who can control other minds to do her bidding.
You're probably too young to understand, but just like some humans, some minds enjoy it.
Hey, look. What I'm into is my own business, alright? Stop looking at me like that.
If he's anything like Yosuke, he's probably into nurses, and if he's anything like me, he's probably into... moving on. While this could have been an opportunity to have her ability limit your own mind powers in battle and be a unique experience, it's just a lackluster fight against her and Pyramid Head over here. And then she blows herself up. Oh, her name was Reika Kisaki, by the way, in case anyone actually cared. Now, the way we've been finding these people is because this guy, the just kinda guy, keeps calling Kei to tease and mock him while giving clues to point them in the right direction. His name is Kanade Sakyo, and if I had to compare him to anybody from Persona, he's kinda like a Dachi, in the sense that he feels like the other side of Kei. They both specialize in earth element skills, his mind even feels similar to Kei's, and the reason he's doing anything just boils down to him thinking it's fun. He's also sort of like Sho from Ultimax, even down to being voiced by Todd Haberkorn, who gives an amazing performance here and is probably the only reason Kanade isn't just super annoying.
Hey, you win by having fun. What's the point of life if you're just bitter and angry the whole time? So I just do whatever I feel like doing. And I felt like having some fun with you guys.
Even before Ultimax even came out, Mind Zero is ripping it off. For shame. Speaking of the game's voice acting, I do just want to say it's all really good. Which makes sense, as nearly every actor in this game either has been or went on to be in a Persona game, so it's a great cast. Matt Mercer does a nice job as Kei, Shizuku's done by Cindy Robinson, the same actor as Labris. I like Labris. And even Kamada is voiced by Jamieson Price, who went on to become everyone's favorite curry daddy in Persona 5. And while I was talking about voice actors, we beat Kanade. He tells us that Togetsu Saionji, the leader of Not Strega, needs Shizuku's power to create a new world, and that Togetsu's bond with his mind is so strong that his mind is always summoned. Was that supposed to be a twist? Were we not already aware that the mute dark elf standing next to him throughout the entire game was his mind? And then, unlike the others, Kanade doesn't blow himself up, he just kinda leaves. Good for him. Now, when I say final dungeon, what do your minds usually go to? Big, impressive areas, right? Towers, castles, mountains, something imposing, something that feels like it's going to be a genuine challenge to get through, right? Well, Mind Zero's final dungeon is a flea market. I had to acquire this information, and now so do all of you. This flea market is a needlessly long dungeon because it uses these pop-up events to try and quickly explain Saionji's whole deal, because that's easier than actually having your villain be a fleshed-out character throughout the story. Basically, his sister died, but his mind looks like his sister, but it's also eating him from the inside, but Shizuku's ability to purify minds can make her do a stop it and somehow revive the real sister. Look, I don't get it and I don't care. I'm tired of grinding and I'm just ready for it to be over. The final boss fights are against this enormous magic door, which is actually really easy. I killed it in just a few turns. Thanks, grinding! And then the final battle against Saionji himself, which is also pretty easy. Thanks, grinding! Once he's defeated, we save Shizuku once and for all, and everybody is happy! Until Shizuku immediately gets sucked into the door and disappears. And then Saionji blows himself up too. And also that cop guy from earlier gets exploded as well. And Kanade is hanging out somewhere like, oh boy, I hope I get to fight those guys again. And then the game ends on a cliffhanger. Are you kidding me? All of this build-up, all of this grinding, all of this culmination of the story to this exact moment, and they end it on a cliffhanger. I hope I never meet the person who thought that Mind 1, or whatever they were going to call the sequel, was such a sure thing that they made this decision, because I will be far too distracted by their giant balls to be able to even ask them why they thought this could possibly be a good idea. There are a few post-credit scenes, like Shizuku waking up in the inner realm with amnesia, and The Undertaker talking to a new client, who, if I had to guess, is probably Kamada, because the cat meowed right before he blew up. The game tells us that this is only the beginning, but unsurprisingly, this game did not get a sequel, so any questions we have will remain unanswered. Which is dumb. Mind Zero's biggest problem is that it's a 15-hour game that uses grinding to turn itself into a 50-hour game that still can't even give a satisfying conclusion. This game could have been a simple, somewhat enjoyable RPG experience, but its artificial length and horrible mishandling of the ending just has it leaving a bad taste in my mouth. I can't really recommend Mind Zero to anybody. What enjoyable things the game does have, the artwork, the voice acting, even the parts of the gameplay that are fun, are completely drowned out by a mediocre story, one of the worst endings I've ever seen, and gameplay that shamelessly stretches itself out to the point of becoming unbearable. The game just doesn't really do anything special that you can't get elsewhere. I know by this point in the video, you're all probably tired of the comparison, but really, if you think this game looks at all interesting, just go play Persona. Oh yeah, and just one final thing before we go. This whole time I've been showing the Vita version. I was actually playing on the Steam version all along! April Fool! I want to give extra special thanks to Steven Azrael for gifting me this game on Steam so I could play it for you all. I guess what I'm saying is, blame him for this. Okay, thanks, bye!